This webinar is entitled Muslims in Southeast Europe, History, Indigenization and New Communities. On this platform, speakers will present their studies on integration and indigenization of the Muslim communities in Southeast Europe, which comprises Greeks, Albania, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Slovenia, and Bosnia. Without further ado, I will welcome His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid Al Noaimi, the Chairman of the World Muslim Communities Council. This brief introduction will remain incomplete without mentioning tumultuous title, The Nation State, recently published by Bloomsbury Publications. It's a vibrant new feather in his luminous author's cap. Without further ado, let's welcome His Excellency Dr. Ali Noaimi to deliver his opening remarks, please.
Thank you, my friend Abbas. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. First of all, brother and sister, congratulations, Ramadan Mubarak to all of you. And, we thank God that we are fortunate, to be part of this Ramadan, even with the world is actually facing a huge challenge because of corona virus. So may Allah accept your fasting, your prayer, and that we will all enjoy the barakah of this month. And thank you very much for being part of this webinar. We always try, to focus on issues that of challenge, but at the same time that there is opportunity in these challenges. And as you know, always, we as Muslim, we are proud of our history, and we should be proud of our history. But at the same time, you see, we are living a new era, a world where the whole world becomes like a small village, where many concepts that was part of the history, you can't implement them now. Alhamdulillah, Islam is a religion that is welcomed in all countries. You won't find any country that without having even a small community of Muslim living there. So we have to understand that we have more than 600 million Muslims living outside the Muslim world, and we have to understand that they need a special fatwa related to the challenges and the situation that they are living in. So it's very important that we have to understand, the era that we are living in, and to look into opportunity whenever we face a challenge, and to understand that we are part of a community, the large community, where we have to have engaged with that community to make sure that it's a stable, a secure, and that all those who are part of this community with us enjoy the same thing. Even we have to work as Muslim in the prosperity of these community that we are part of. So when we come to talk about Southeast Europe, there is a challenge for Muslim in that area. It's a challenge mostly of identity. And we have to understand that we all Muslim, wherever we are proud of our religion. But at the same time, our religion open venues for us to engage in other component in the community, to show the bright side of Islam, to show that Islam is a religion of peace, a religion of love, a religion where everyone will feel that Islam add value to their life and to their community. So it's very important, especially in this area, that when you look into history, you try to take the right lesson from that history. You know, the whole region, Southeast Europe, has changed within the last 30 years. A new state has evolved within the international law. We as Muslim, we have to understand that, we have to respect that, and we have to live with that, and respect the new nation, and encourage Muslim in these nation for the integration within that nation, to be part of it, to be loyal with it, and that does not contradict with being a Muslim, and even a proud of being a Muslim actually. So it's very important that you have to develop your own vision of the way that you will integrate with your community. My advice to you, please, don't listen to those who are living in different community, who don't know your challenges, who don't know the actual challenges that the women Muslim are facing, the Muslim family are facing, the business Muslim community are facing. So it's very important to look into the fatwa that right for your community, that fit with the challenges and the opportunity of your community. And it's very important that you are within that community also, that you work together, because many of the challenges that you share in that area. But be careful, don't look into the challenges from a vision of being a victim, or because you are suffering. No, look into the challenges through an eye of opportunity, and engage with the community, and try to make sure that the integration that you will work on and make it part of your agenda, that at the same time respect your values, respect your Islam, and also show the bright thing of Islam to the other community. I wish you a very fruitful discussion in this webinar, and I thank all of you for being part of it, and may Allah accept your fasting and your prayer, and inshallah soon we'll see you in your country after this coronavirus restriction. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this remarkable words, especially giving an opening stretch to this conference. We have one more prominent opening speaker here, Sheikh Shakir Fatah, Head of Scholars and Grand Mufti of Republic of North Macedonia. Sheikh, please. Sheikh, we have some difficulties in here. Could you on your microphone again? Yes, please. Sheikh. Sheikh, your microphone is off. Okay, please. Please continue. There is some technical difficulties. I think we will shift to next session and then we will bring Sheikh later. Yes, now it's okay, bro. Dr. Masood, we can start next session and we will ask the Sheikh to clear the technical difficulties, please.
Okay, can I start?
Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid Al Nuaimi, Chairman of the World Muslim Communities Council, His Eminence Sheikh Shakir Fatah, Head of the Scholars and Grand Mufti of the Republic of North Macedonia, and later on that is going to join us, His Eminence Buyar Spahil, the Grand Mufti of Albania and Chairman of the Sunni Muslim Community of Albania, distinguished speakers, and those who are listening to us around the globe. Before proceeding with our presenters, speakers, distinguished speakers, I was asked by the organizing committee of the World Muslim Communities Council to brief some few minutes about my own self as well. I am Masoud Idris. I was born in Socialist Federative Republic of Yugoslavia and currently citizen of the North Macedonia, a region that is considered a periphery to the central Muslim world. And it is quite interesting that from that periphery, I moved and I was educated in another periphery of the Muslim world, that is Southeast Asia, and particularly in Malaysia, under the guidance of highly distinguished global and yet local scholars at the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, which was founded by the Professor Sayyid Muhammad Naqib al-Attas, a descendant of this region of South Arabian Peninsula from Hadramaut, where he was bringing number of scholars from all around the world to teach postgraduate students in various fields of Islamic civilization and Islamic science and Islamic thought, where I did my master, my MA and my PhD. It is quite interesting that, from one periphery to another periphery, but yet I did not forget my root that is in the Western periphery in Southeast Europe. I did my MA and my PhD on the topics related to the Southeast Europe, to the Balkans. And it is quite interesting that my PhD was on the court records, which used to be called Sijillat al-Shar'iyya, pertaining to the Ottoman courts in the Balkans. And the thesis was related to the famous metropole city of Manastir, which is today called Bitola in North Macedonia. And I studied court records. And these court records, I came across and I realized the identity of the region and how the Islam and Islamic civilization was integrated to the local culture, local indigenous people. Here, I came to understand that the term that coined as Islam, the capital letter of Islam, that is I, here symbolically refers to an identity and not to a self-ego. And this led my research towards being traditionalist to the modernist, and yet modernist to the traditionalist. In other words, I don't want to take your time because we have distinguished speakers here. I have been trying throughout my research. Of course, my focus is mostly on conceptual analysis of between civilizations. and of course, taking certain elements from the Balkans and comparing with the other parts of the world. The conceptual and civilizational approach to the issues. Without further ado, the element here is, it has really given me the impact of being global yet local, and yet local yet global. That global attention to be given to the local traditions, and local tradition to be upgraded into a global attention. Without further ado, with this introduction, I am, by the way, head of the Department of History and Islamic Civilization at the University of Sharjah, United Arab Emirates, and I'm director of Sharjah International Foundation for the History of Arab and Muslim Sciences under the University of Sharjah.
Dr. Masood, I'm sorry for interrupting now. Our Sheikh is ready now. Let him join now and then we can continue.
All right, we will. Thank you very much.
Please, no, I leave to you. Please ask Sheikh to continue. Macedonia, please ask him.
His Eminence, Sheikh, are you ready? Are you got it? Microphone in jullie. Nuk ndëgjot. Nuk ndëgjot. I think it's much better to remove the head speakers, you know, to speak directly if there is a mic on the computer. That will really solve the problem better, I think. Nuk ndëgjojmë.
Dëgjohet tash?
Po, ndëgjohet tani.
Tash po.
His Eminence.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. الذي شرفنا
Praise be to Almighty Allah.
الكريم.
We are happy that Almighty Allah granted us the blessings of living to enjoy the acts of worship and fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. And peace be upon Prophet Muhammad and all his family members and companions. Almighty Allah says in the Holy Quran, I seek refuge with Almighty Allah from the accursed second, from the accursed Satan, and from his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and the differences among your skin colors. And this is part of the signs of Almighty Allah. Almighty Allah speaks the truth. Your Excellency Ali Rashid An-Naimi, Your Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid An-Naimi, the chairman of the World Muslim Communities Council, Your Eminence Sheikh Buyar Spahir, the Grand Mufti of the Republic of Albania and the chairman of the Sunni Muslim community of Albania. Our dear guests and renowned speakers, first I would like to greet you with the blessings of Islam and the greeting of Islam, the greeting of love and peace. Peace be with all of you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you today and to congratulate you on the launch of these blessed webinars, which aims to use all the available capabilities to boost the sublime Islamic values. And I would like to congratulate His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid An-Naimi the chairman of the World Muslim Communities Council. I would like to congratulate him on this activity, and I would like to congratulate him on the great efforts he has been exerting and his great contributions to supporting Islam and Muslims. The religious life started and evolved in the Balkans since 6 centuries, started 6 centuries ago. And there have been a number of challenges and turbulences that Muslims faced in that area, and they are quite prominent. The presence of Islam and continuity of Islam, thanks to Almighty Allah, is the fact that it was deeply rooted in the hearts of Muslims who combated and faced the ferocious winds and headwinds against them and the pressures they faced from authorities and entities that rejected the diversity of their communities and rejected peaceful coexistence among their components. And thereby they disobeyed the laws set forward by Almighty Allah and the reality, which is the fact that this is part of the nature of human beings to have this diversity as the most honored creation of Almighty Allah. The Muslims in the Balkans and the Balkans Peninsula offered many things to the peoples of this region in many domains, including the ethical domain and the cultural domain and the economic domain, and particularly in terms of teaching the values of coexistence and peaceful coexistence and tolerance among the different cultures and religions and different communities. Almighty Allah in the Holy Quran teaches us that diversity and differences represent one of the signs of Almighty Allah and one of the signs of His wisdom, as Almighty Allah says in the Holy Quran. And among His signs is the creation of the earth, the heavens and the earth, and the differences between your languages and skin colors. This is one of the signs to those who have knowledge. Almighty Allah speaks the truth. The Muslims in the Balkans have learned this.
لهم قدوة ونموذجا يقتدى به.
Which make them a model in this way. Also, the religious texts focus on coexistence between the different communities and different beliefs. And it's not a mistake to say there is a miracle in the legislations how to live with the non-Muslims. So difference in religions doesn't mean that we can't live together. In addition to that, Islam is against to obligate anyone to enter Islam, as the companions of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, kept the churches in the different countries. And we can see that in the different cultures and different beliefs. And this is a priority for our communities, for the members of the communities, especially when we talk about the Islamic instructions. It is the new communities. They will not suffer from any challenge because of itself to the others. On the contrary, they will be a model for a Balkan and Southeast Europe. In addition, unfortunately, we can't ignore the social and economical state where the whole world is going through because of COVID-19. For that, we need to be very careful and to respect the precautionary measures to keep ourselves and also to keep our beloved ones. Ramadan is coming, and he finds us between these different challenges. We are now facing COVID-19, which proved the importance of coexistence and to have a human fraternity. And the whole world now is a small village. In this occasion, I would like to congratulate all in my name and in the name of the Islamic Union of Macedonia in the north and all the entities for the month of Ramadan. And we pray to Allah during this month to be more to have more solidarity and to have more human thinking. We are gathering regardless of our beliefs and cultures. We are unified by the noble values and the spiritual principles. Ramadan Kareem, and may Allah accept all the good deeds. Anyway, I'm really sure that the participants in this webinar will we will benefit from their experience in this regard. I wish you all the best and may Allah blessings on you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Shakir Fatahu, Grand Mufti of North Macedonia. Thank you very much for your speech. Now we may proceed with our presenters in this webinar session. The first session, we will start with the first session with Dr. Muhammad Ali, who is a lecturer, professor in the Department of International Relations at the University of Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. He is a prolific writer, multilingual person. Please, Dr. Muhammad Ali, your speech is on the theme, with the theme on this one, Islamic education and curriculum in the Balkans. You are specialized actually on this matter. In the last 10 years, you have been extensively, I think, working on this theme. Please give us an overview of your topic. Each presenter has maximum 10 minutes. Please be punctual in your timing. And for those who do not understand English, you can just press down. There is a button called interpretation. Switch it into translation. It can be translated into Arabic and from Arabic into English. The floor is yours, Dr. Muhammad Ali.
Good evening and assalamu alaikum. I would like firstly to express my gratitude to His Excellency Dr. Al-Nuaimi for organizing this event. Also to send my regards to all colleagues here, and in particular to Rais Ulama Sheikh Shakir, His Excellency Sheikh Shakir Fatahu. Regarding to my topic, so my topic is titled Islamic Education and Curriculum in the Balkans. So as we know, in the Ottoman educational institutions of the Balkans, students were trained in different fields of Islamic sciences by their teachers who have been chosen based on students' choices. After completion of studies under the mentorship of professors, so they have been licensed at Ijazah. So the license has been named like Ijazah to teach. So in this context, we have to underline that Ijazahs or the licenses were given to the students by their professors and not by the institutions. In this regard, additionally, we have to underline that education under the Ottoman rule during those days was realized by traditional educational tools and institutions such as tekkes, ibtidai schools, idadi schools, and madrasas. And in the 16th century, those schools were classified into madrasas, hanikas, Darul Quran, and Darul Hadith. The Balkan region during the 20th century was featured by the rise of socialism and communism and its effects on Muslims' everyday belief activities and the process of development of Islamic education among them. After the fall of communism in the 1990s, Islamic communities of the Balkan region faced new challenges in terms of establishing and developing new educational institutions to fulfill the educational needs of Muslims. Establishing new madrasas and faculties of Islamic studies in this region in the second half of the 20th century might be considered as one of the major achievements of Muslims in this region. If we have a look at the process of development of Islamic education in the Balkans in the 20th century and the beginning of 21st century, we will realize that this process is divided into following components. Firstly, Islamic education under the control and management of Islamic communities like madrasas, Islamic colleges, mosques, and maktabs. And secondly, the second type of educational approach regarding Islamic education is related and based on the development of democratic values in respective states of Balkan region, and as a result emerged new approaches of states ruled by democracy towards religious education, such as offering religious education at the primary and secondary levels. The last period is distinguished by introducing new subjects related to religion in public schools in Southeast Europe that is resulting in strengthening and affirmation of religious and democratic values in the societies of this region. By the introduction of the religious subjects inside the curriculum of public schools in Southeast Europe, an important effort was given towards raising religious citizenship awareness among new generations of this region that are expected to become citizens of the multilingual and multi-religious European Union. When it comes to the Islamic education in North Macedonia, we have to highlight that during the first half of the 20th century, madrasas were functioning in all the cities of North Macedonia. Teachers at these institutions had graduated from higher education institutions within the country or abroad. Also, it is important to mention that in most cases, the duration of studies didn't have a time frame. It lasted until students obtained their diplomas or ijazatnamas. So we have to highlight also that Islamic education in North Macedonia is one of the best organized and structured religious education systems in the region. The main and only responsible organization for managing Islamic education in North Macedonia is the Islamic community in North Macedonia, Meshikha in North Macedonia. And the Islamic education system in North Macedonia is consisting of madrasas, so religious high schools, faculty of Islamic sciences, and religious education in public schools funded by the government, and maktabs. When it comes to the Islamic education in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have to highlight that along with the Macedonian one is one of the best organized and structured religious education systems in the region. The main and only responsible organization for managing Islamic education in this country is the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Meshikha Islamiyya fi Bosna, to regulate, and its aims is to regulate state-Muslim community relations. And the Islamic education system in Bosnia is consisting of madrasas, different faculties, religious education in public schools, and maktabs. When it comes to madrasas, we have to mention that there are 6 madrasas, and they are Gazi Husrev Bey Madrasa, Bahram Bey Madrasa, Elchi Ibrahim Pasha Madrasa, Osman Efendi Rejovic Madrasa, Jamaluddin Efendi Çavuşeviç Madrasa, and Karacoz Bey Madrasa. And when it comes to the faculties, we have to mention that there are 3 different faculties providing Islamic education, and they are Faculty of Islamic Studies in Sarajevo, Islamic Pedagogical Faculty in Zenica, and in Bihać as well. And in this regard, I would like to mention the project of establishing International Islamic University. So there is an idea of establishing an International Islamic University located in Bosnia and Herzegovina with the Faculty of Islamic Studies and Gazi Husrev Bey Library. But so far, this idea has not been implemented. Besides faculties and madrasas, so there is religious education in public schools and maktabs as well. When it comes to Montenegro, so we have to highlight here that the Mehmet Fatih Madrasa in Podgorica is considered as main Islamic education and learning institution in Montenegro. It is consisting of male and female branches, and there are some units in Rožaja and cities like Rožaja and Ulcinj. Also, these madrasas curriculum is consisting of religious and non-religious courses. On the other hand, the female branch of the Novi Pazar Madrasa of the Islamic community in Serbia, it is also operating in the city of Rožaja. With regard to the Islamic education in Serbia, so we have to mention that Muslim state relations in Serbia are divided between 2 institutions, and they are the Islamic community of Serbia and the Islamic community in Serbia, with seat in Novi Pazar, and they are operating also with different madrasas and faculties of Islamic sciences. Islamic education in Croatia is represented by Islamic Secondary School Ahmet Smailović, which is considered like private secondary school, and it is located in Zagreb. And so it has been established in 1992, and it has been recognized by the Croatian government as a private school. When it comes to the Islamic education in Kosovo, we have to mention that Islamic education in Kosovo is represented by madrasas, Faculty of Islamic Sciences, Hifz institutes, and so the main pillar of Islamic education in Kosovo is represented by Alauddin Madrasa, which is a well-known madrasa in Southeast Europe and has been established in 1949. And it has its branches in Prizren and cities like Prizren and Jilan. On the other hand,
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay. So also Islamic religious education, it is represented by the Faculty of Islamic Studies located in Pristina. And finally, Islamic education in Albania. So Muslim community of Albania operates with 7 madrasas and with Badr University as well. And under the umbrella of this university, there is a College of Islamic Studies, Department of Islamic Sciences, which offers bachelor and master programs in Islamic studies. And as a conclusion, so we have to highlight that traditional Islamic education and learning institutions in the Balkans might be considered a good model for Islamic religious education systems in other parts of Europe. And we should emphasize that Islamic religious education in the Balkans had played and still playing a key role in minimizing the negative effects of foreign ideologies on the traditional Islamic model and life in this region. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Ali. I thought you will be introducing yourself from which country you are. Dr. Muhammad Ali is my countrymate from Republic of North Macedonia. For those who are with us here, just for your information, you may share, it is live on Facebook and in YouTube. You can share with your friends and they can ask questions. Now we go to the second speaker of this session. Is from North Macedonia to neighboring country, Greece. We have a very distinguished scholar and friend of ours, Dr. Ali Hüseyinoğlu, who is a professor at the Trakya University in Turkey. He is going to speak about Muslim-Christian cohabitation in Greece. Please, Dr. Ali, at the beginning, give a short background about yourself and continue with the topic. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Professor. My dear Excellencies, dear friends and colleagues, Salam alaikum. Good evening from the city of Edirne, which is at Turkey's borderland with Greece and Bulgaria. Today, let me briefly explain myself. I was born in the city of Komotini in Greece. Then I moved to Turkey for further education, for university and postgraduate studies was in Ankara. And then I moved to the University of Sussex, which is in England, and finished my PhD there. And since 2013, I've been teaching at the Balkan Research Institute at Trakya University here in Edirne, Turkey, as associate professor. Today, I will briefly explain. First of all, I'm very happy to be to get involved in this webinar as a speaker, and thank you very much for the organizers. When we say Muslim-Christian cohabitation in Greece, let me briefly explain that there is the concept of religious pluralism in Greece is very important in the coexistence and cohabitation of these two primary religions in the context of Greece. In Greece, there are two types of religions, the known ones and the unknown ones. The known ones, like Islam, like Jews, Catholics, and other faith groups who are among the known religions, and they have a variety of religious rites enshrined in different texts in the Greek law. As we all know, Greece is primarily an Orthodox Christian country, and all the religions they are a type of minority religions, and Islam is the number one minority religion in terms of its followers, its believers, and it's the biggest minority religion in Greece. When we talk about Islam in Greece, it's quite an old phenomenon, which goes back to 500 or 600 years ago, especially with the Ottoman control of today's lands of Greece. Islam was boosted all across the lands of Greece. And roughly speaking, and because of the time limit, I just want to tell that there are two types of Muslims, which are, I think, within the context of this webinar, and then which is one is the indigenous Islam, Muslims who have been living on these lands for the last 500 years, and we have a second group of Islam who are relatively newer, and as we call immigrant Muslims. They are mainly of ethnic origins coming who are immigrants in Greece. And they are relatively newcomers, and the majority of whom arrived Greece after 1960s and especially after 1990s with the end of the Cold War. When we talk about the coexistence of these countries in terms of indigeneity, we need to mention two groups. The first group is the Muslim Turks in Western Thrace. And the other group is the Muslim Turks in the Rhodos and Kos Islands, which is in the Dodecanese territory of Greece, very close to Turkey. If you ever visited Rhodos or Kos Islands, which are very popular and touristic destinations, you definitely spotted some mosques and Muslims there. And when we talk about newer Muslims, these group of people, they are much higher in number, but they lack a status of official religious minority. I need to explain it later, but this is very important in terms of what does it mean for Muslims in Greece. And these groups, they are primarily based, the immigrant new Muslims I will say. They are primarily based in the urban city centers of Greece. And in this group, there is also another group, which are Greek Muslims, who are the converts, who used to be Orthodox Christians and then converted to Islam. But they are very small in number. The cohabitation of these two groups is very significant in terms of how they share the same space. The Muslim Turks in Western Thrace and in the Kos and Rhodos Islands, they are very accustomed to this. For example, I was born in a mixed village near Komotini, where a church and the mosque, is founded and they have been existing for many centuries. I was born in a town where I can hear the church bell. At the same time, I can hear 5 times the prayer from the mosque of our town. Many of the indigenous Muslims, they know their own Islamic identity, as they know also the identity of the majority Christians who share the same town, the same village, because indigenous Muslims, many of them, they lived in mixed localities with Christians, or they have relations with Greeks. Only a few of them, they live in remote villages where there are no Orthodox Christians, but they still have a kind of relation with these people. But when you go to and especially in the Rhodos and Kos Islands, you can also see how these two people, they share the same space on the island. And islands, they have a low geography in number compared to the land. And when the immigrant Muslims, they live mainly in Athens and Thessaloniki. Actually, for those people who have been living there, for the majority Orthodox Christians, they used to be hundreds and thousands of Muslim Turks living there. But as you know, after the population exchange between Greece and Turkey in 1922, 1923 until 1930, almost 500,000 Turks, they had to move towards Turkey. Then all of these lands, they were emptied by Islam and by Muslims. But this number of Muslims started to increase in these urban centers, especially from 1950s, 60s and onwards. And today, the estimate numbers, nobody knows the exact figures about the number of Muslims all over Greece, but it's estimated that the number of Muslims who are of immigrant type, a newer Muslims, number around 800,000 people, and the rest is 200,000 people, which is around 1 million Muslims live in today's Greece, compared to and the overall number of Greek Greek population is 11 million. 1 in 11 million people. The Greek state has been doing a number of taking a number of measures so as to promote the integration of Muslims in the Greek society. As we all know, as we all deal with these issues, it's very tough, it's very painful, and it's quite a long process, especially for those who are relatively newcomer Muslims to the Greek society, who know quite a little about Greeks and the Orthodox Christianity. It really takes too much time to integrate these people. But the integration of indigenous Muslims, has been relatively easier than compared to what Greece has been doing, so as to integrate, especially the new Muslims. But we all need to keep in mind that Muslims in Greece, they may have some problems about their religious. In terms of violation of their own religious rights, they are not 100% fully safeguarded by Greece, but Greece has been taking quite many measures so as to integrate all Muslims, all types of Muslims in Greece to the wider Greek society.
1 minute.
I'm done, Professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, for this short, brief survey. You took us to the islands of the Greece. Now with the third speaker, to make the gender balance a little bit, to move to the female side of it. I have known Dr. Mary Ugrinovska. She's from North Macedonia, but she has been living for quite some time in Vienna, in Austria. She has completed her first PhD in 2008 on traditional arts, especially her focus has been on Islamic arts. And now she's doing her second PhD and teaching part-time her second PhD is on applied arts at the University of Applied Arts, Vienna, Austria. She's going to deliver a talk on Islamic art and architecture in the Balkans, a legacy of cultural fusion. Please, Dr. Mary, floor is yours. You have 10 minutes.
Hello, thank you, dear committee, dear organizers of this webinar, as well as all of you included in this beautiful and really important project on interreligious tolerance and cultural fusion on the Balkans. As Professor Mesut said, my name is Mary Ugrinovska. I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Applied Arts, Department of Arts and Sciences, and finalizing my research on development of new technologies also in the art industry. I would like to express my gratitude for having the chance to be a part of this and be able to express my views and passion on the subject of Islamic arts and architecture, a subject that I have been deeply involved in and interested since my student days in Macedonia, studying at the Faculty for Ethnology, Social and Cultural Anthropology in Skopje. My expertise lies more into the field of Islamic arts and semiotics, researching the meaning of symbols expressed through art forms and techniques and patterns. Having my first PhD completed at the University of Vienna at the Department of Social and Cultural Anthropology, the title of my dissertation was precisely the reflection of Islam on forms and symbols of the Middle Eastern Jewry. Now more on the chapter itself. In the chapter on Islamic art and architecture, I would like to examine the cultural legacy of the Balkan region, revealing patterns of fusion and evolution, bringing forth a perspective of the mystical and historic discourses, presenting an overview of the processes that shaped the face of Islamic art and architecture in the region, its manifestations, threads, and structural reflections in our perception of beauty, art and knowledge of history, as well as interpretation of artistic value. Tolerance and interreligious coexistence were not periodic anomalies on the Balkan, and otherwise in a long history of this violent relations that also occurred, but rather a crucial fundament of the century-long tradition of cultural codependent flourishing. The societies on the Balkan allowed the nationalities and ethnic groups that formed it to preserve their cultural and social identities, and thereby truly constructing a plural society resting on diversity of views, of interpretations, visions, and the ways of understanding life. So in these terms, both totality and unity were simultaneously perceived and partially also fused into the visible cradle of artistic impressions and distinctive and exquisite architectural style. So for me, this is a big challenge to work on and investigate. The territory of the Balkans is rich, diverse, and extremely inspiring. One of the most fascinating things about the architecture is that it matures in time and the styles gradually change as it is adapting to new trends over pondering under the sleeve of time. The Ottoman architect lived long enough to implement multiple styles and techniques on the architecture, and ranging from many beautiful and massive mosques, public baths and bridges. The impressive structures continue to impress the landscape of the Balkan countries. The styles, the details, and the craftsmanship of these constructions keep on fascinating with each new sediment of fresh air on them, creating a unified sense of beauty, craved by time and upgraded by the smell of its rich history. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mary, with this brief...
Dondurma var mı bana da? Ben de ya, bana da koysana azıcık.
Dr. Ali Hüseyinoğlu,
Excuse me.
Your mic is... we would like to welcome His Eminence Uyars Bahiu, that he just joined us. Our last speaker is now. I was informed, and we were thinking that to do some balance also and justice to the Arabic language, you know, instead of presenting all the papers in English, you know. So we thought of switching some of the speeches into Arabic, and we have our next speaker is Dr. Islami from Isabek Madrasa in North Macedonia. He's a citizen of North Macedonia. He has a long experience in the Islamic studies and regional studies of the North Macedonia. His speech is going to be about religious tolerance in the Republic of North Macedonia, the case of the Islamic Religious Union and the Macedonian Orthodox Church. And his presentation will be in Arabic. And those people who do not understand Arabic, you can just click down interpretation. It will be given to you in English language. Dr. Islam, the floor is yours.
شكرا رئيس الجلسة.
Thank you very much, the chairman of the session, Dr. Masoud Idris. I would like to thank His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Naimi, the chairman of the World Muslim Communities Council. I would like to thank the Islamic Sheikhdom, Hafiz Sheikh al-Fatahum. I would like to thank the chairman of the Albanian Sheikhdom, Boya Isbahi. I would like to thank all the attendees and all the speakers. I wish you many happy returns and happy Ramadan to all of you. My name is Islam Islami. I was born in Macedonia, in the capital, Skopje. I graduated from Al-Azhar University, the Department of Creed or Aqidah and Philosophy. Then I pursued my studies to obtain a special diploma in Islamic Studies. Then I pursued my master's degree in Islamic Philosophy in the Faculty of Dar al-Ulum. My topic of the thesis was about the issue of comparative studies between Ibn Haris and Al-Ghazali in terms of studying Islamism or Sufism. Then I studied in Macedonia, in the University of Macedonia, and the Department of Political Sciences. The topic that I've selected to discuss today is Islamic tolerance in northern Macedonia, the Islamic Sheikhdom and the Macedonian Orthodox Church. The Islamic tolerance in terms of the different and diverse tolerance represents a different concept and a challenge for the Balkans area. Discussing these topics from this advanced level aims to boost the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence and constructive dialogue, and instilling these values in these diverse communities within Northern Macedonia. all religions call upon us to respect human rights and call for achieving equality among humans and reject all forms of prejudice or racial discrimination or cultural or religious or any type of discrimination. Religions call for achieving freedom for all without any restrictions or forcing or coercion of anyone to embrace any religion, or also without confiscating people's freedom and the freedoms of the people of these nations. Tolerance, religious tolerance that we call for, we understand within it how to peacefully coexist among the different believers of different religions. This can be achieved when each one of them admit of the importance of the values called for by their own religion, even within our countries. Some religious Islamist groups tries to show tolerance towards other groups and nationalities which live within northern Macedonia through expressing appreciation and acceptance of all religious and all the religious acts of devotion and so on. So these Muslim societies in Macedonia try to show tolerance by building bridges of communication and collaboration with all non-Muslim communities. So these Muslim communities try to build the bridges of collaboration and tolerance with all non-Muslims in the communities, and these are reflected and manifested in mutual collaboration in the different aspects of cooperation at the social level as well. On the other hand, the Macedonian Orthodox Church seeks to boost respect for all religions and religious values, which boost peaceful coexistence. And in light of that, we see that experts in the relations between different ethnicities that hindering the integration process gave some freedom for different nationalist trends to build upon the many years of the rhetoric of hatred and violence and resorting to religious and ethnic backgrounds at certain times, and to benefit from this. So our main objective is to utilize the common grounds for boosting collaboration among Muslims and Muslim societies on the one hand, and the Orthodox Church on the other, to boost tolerance and to make put forward a clear image between for the collaboration between those two important establishments in our country, and to disregard the mistakes made by either of them. We need to focus on finding common ground between them so they can establish a more valuable platform and a more efficient platform for religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence in our country. I would like to thank you for listening, and peace be with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Islam, for this brief overview about the relationship between building bridges, building interreligious elements between the Islamic Religious Union of Macedonia and the Macedonian Orthodox Church. Now, the session that I have been entrusted with is going to be over. I am going to pass the session to the second keynote speaker, that is His Eminence Sheikh Buyar Spahil, the Grand Mufti of Albania and the chairman of the Sunni Muslim community of Albania. Please, Your Eminence, the microphone, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Shukran jazilan.
Thank you very much. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful, peace be upon Prophet Muhammad and all his family members and companions. I would like to greet all of you, and to greet all the attendants and all the participants in this conference. And I would like to thank all the attendees and participants in this wonderful and blessed conference, talking about Islam in Albania and how Muslims are proud of their country, Albania. We will briefly highlight this point. Your Eminence, the chairman of the session, the presence of Islam in Albania goes back to several centuries ago and dates back to many centuries ago, and this long period of time has witnessed difficult and good circumstances. No doubt the difficult circumstances were more painful and difficult to us, and particularly that the atheist socialist regime in Albania in the year 1944 targeted all Islamic values and sublime values and all other religious sects and religions here. And Islam began to spread in Albania in the year in the 14th century, actually. Islam began to spread in Albania in the 14th century AD. However, this dictatorship regime in the 1940s in Albania waged a vicious war on all religious people, whether they were Muslims or non-Muslims or Christians also. And in the year 1976, the socialist regime declared that Albania the first legally atheist country in the world, after destroying all mosques and all churches and houses of worship and turned them into stables and into warehouses. The number of mosques back then was 1,127. And after the collapse of socialism, some of them were found in a very rich and impoverished state. The most prominent Muslims in Albania back then were killed or assassinated, and many of them died in the prisons and were persecuted heavily. This continued for several decades until Almighty Allah put an end to this ordeal, which is more like which is a very unique ordeal in modern history. Then the great and prominent role of Islamic sheikhs in Albania, which started and continues to be the official representative of Muslims in Albania. It played a major role of restoring the religious spirit to mosques and houses of worship, despite the difficult circumstances that Muslim sheikhs faced back then in Albania and difficult, austere economic circumstances. Yet they exerted a major effort to link Muslims back to their religion and to be proud of their religion and proud of the country where they live. The Islamic Sheikhs Society in Albania, it dates back to the year 1923 in the past century. And in the year 1967, this establishment, the Islamic Mashiach, was shut down alongside the other Catholic and Orthodox societies in Albania, and they were re-established again in the year 1990. As all of us know, that Albania was actually adopted the socialist regime back then, and then it turned into the democratic system, and things started to evolve as of that date. It is a well-established and accredited entity approved by the government of Albania. It comprises all Muslims in Albania who embrace the key principles of Islam and the accredited principles of Islam. By conducting its charitable and religious activities, the establishment aims to revive and boost religious values among Muslims and to maintain the traditions we inherited from our ancestors, and to protect human dignity and Muslims' rights and protect their interests. And it also seeks to boost the sense of love and compassion towards our homeland, and to boost peaceful coexistence among all religions that are present on our homeland. We know that Albania is a role model in this regard in terms of peaceful coexistence and interfaith dialogue for many centuries, and not now only. It has been a role model for Europe and for the region and the whole world as well. Thanks to the excellent staff that we have in the capital and the governorates, the establishment has achieved many achievements, and from one time to another, the staff is further supported by highly qualified employees. We seek to boost the capabilities of our staff by offering training courses to them, and in addition to this, we may consider also that the Mashayikha is also a modern day establishment that is based on a modern day structure. We try and do our very best to expand our work and to provide the necessary spaces at the center of the Mashayikha and the libraries, and refurbishing and rebranding and rebuilding the mosques that we have. We know that all mosques were destroyed previously, and thank God, if we had more than 1,000 mosques before the rise of socialism, now we have 800. We have many mosques that were built by funds from the GCC states in the 1990s. We'd like to thank all the GCC states for supporting us and donating money to build schools and mosques here in Albania. They offered Albanian Islamic Mashayikha a great deal of support. The Islamic Mashayikha really pays special attention to education, particularly from middle school, and starting from middle school and middle high school until the university, to raise the different generations and empower them with faith and knowledge, so they can serve their homeland and serve humanity in a way that is based on peaceful coexistence and dialogue among people. As we all know, that the core objective of Islam is to ensure that Muslims become role models in all aspects of life, and also in our relations with others, whether they were Muslims or non-Muslims, or atheists or secularists. Because in this world, everybody has died to live in this world. Only Almighty Allah can hold us accountable on Judgment Day, and hold those who believed or do not believe in Almighty Allah. As we obey Almighty Allah's words in the Holy Quran, there is no coercion in religion. We never coerce anyone to embrace Islam or to believe in Almighty Allah and to believe in the general principles of this great religion. First and foremost, I would like also to thank the World Muslim Communities Council for holding this wonderful conference to enable us to discuss in the holy month of Ramadan these important topics. The Holy Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan as signs of guidance to mankind and to humanity. All of us, Muslims and non-Muslims, need the mercy and blessings of the holy month of Ramadan. May Almighty Allah accept our fasting and accept all our good deeds and enable us to be acceptable in front of Almighty Allah. I would like to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful keynote speech. Now, with this, I will conclude my session, and I will pass it over to my dear friend, Dr. Abbas, to chair the second session. Dr. Abbas is researcher at the World Muslim Communities Council. Please, Dr. Abbas, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masood Idris, especially for keeping the time and moderating well the session. Let's move to another session. We will be keeping the history and indigenization in communities. So we have a first speaker, Dr. Laila Ramish, Meshihovic. He is from Foreign Policy Institute, Bosnia, Herzegovina. He will be speaking on the subject, Yugoslavia's Muslim communities, state building and coexistence. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everybody. I would like to use this opportunity to wish blissful and healthy days of Ramadan to all my fasting friends and colleagues. I will be focusing on the historical fact Professor Mesut Idris and I were born within, which was Yugoslavia. And I will not focus only on the part of existence of Yugoslavia that we were born in, because we are also becoming historical facts. I will also focus on Islamic communities of Yugoslavia after the First World War until and throughout its cease of its existence in 2006. We have Islamic communities in all of these countries. They are rather vibrant, and throughout the history, this history period that I'm just referring to, they had different levels of influence and significance. Their role was fluctuating in both quantity and quality. But what is a permanent fact is that Islamic communities in these countries function within multi-ethnic states primarily, in most of the cases, and somewhere more and somewhere less. And in some cases, they have features of multi-ethnic communities themselves. That's why I'm coming back to the main point of the first eminent speaker today, who was mentioning integration and loyalty. I would add here importance of social cohesion. Here in Bosnia, there are some people like me, funny people who think that coexistence cannot really reflect the closeness of people of different ethnic, religious, and national backgrounds that live here. So social cohesion is something that is crucial for functioning of any society in the world. Our societies that are so like candles in the wind, fragile and turbulent, living in turbulent times, not only during the past 30 years, but since the Eastern crisis at least. And this is something that the period of Yugoslavia is very interesting, because now we can look it as a historical fact. We can see and analyze how Islamic communities were operating through different constitutional frameworks, through different ideological frameworks and matrices. And we can also see how they interacted over different period of times with other religious communities. This is something that is rather interesting, because here in all countries, it can be concluded that there is this blissful side of Islam existing through and being articulated also through its Islamic or religious organization within our countries. So this is what I'm looking into. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving broader idea on the Yugoslavian Muslim communities. I will shift to the next speaker, Dr. Muhammad Kulanic from Institute of Bosniak Studies, Bosnia Herzegovina. He will be speaking on the subject, Journey into Religious Coexistence and Multiculturalism in Bosnia. Please.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Kareem to all of you. I'm better than had my iftar, so we can start on. At the beginning, it was a quite not that much focused on the issue. So Speaking about the religious coexistence or the tolerance within the Bosnia, and speaking about the journey that each religion in a Bosnian society had throughout the history, we speak about the period of almost 6-7 centuries of this coexistence. We can speak about the periods of the turbulent times of wars, but majority of these times actually were the peaceful times where these religious communities coexisted together. So starting back at the beginning of let's say, written record about the Bosnia, and from that period till today, we actually witness this religious coexistence in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Sometimes it is not the most adequate term, as Leila was pointing out, the coexistence as such. So the religions actually in Bosnia do not coexist. Rather, I would use this Turkish term of komşiluk or neighborhood. So in Bosnia, when we speak about different religions, actually we speak about the komşiluk or neighborhood within the Bosnia. So this is the issue on which we build the interfaith dialogue. The problem in Bosnia actually occurred mostly in the 1990s when the aggression started on Bosnia, and Bosnian Muslims that suffered the most, and the genocide that happened. It was about the issue of the identity, and this is this as a background. Sarajevo has been recognized or has been identified within the Europe as European Jerusalem. Coexistence and interconnection between different religious communities so we have the Orthodox Church, we have the Catholic Cathedral, we have the mosque, and we have the synagogue, the Jewish temple. All of them within 500 meters, square meters, located in the center of Sarajevo. So this shows that between different religious groups in Bosnia actually existed throughout the centuries, because not all of them were built in the same year or same period. Rather, they were built throughout the history, and still we have all of them. The war and the aggression on Bosnia that actually led to the fact that some authors, especially in the West, actually were trying to claim that, oh, we got it finally. Samuel Huntington was having great point. This is the clash of civilizations that we have. We can look at throughout the ex-Yugoslav or Bosnian war. So it shows that these different religions cannot cooperate, rather that there will be the bloody lines between religions. Actually, we see through just one example. I want to point out this not appropriate usage of this theory, or the fallacy of the theory as such. It is in the fact that immediately after the war ended in 1995, late 1995 and early 1996, the representatives of 4 major traditional religious communities in Bosnia and Herzegovina came together, and they established the first interreligious council or organization in Bosnia that was the first of that kind, I think, in the world as such established, the Council for Interreligious Dialogue. It still operates, it's still in Bosnia, and it is not that much, let's say, to have the huge functionality. Rather, it shows that there is a possibility of interfaith dialogue, and through its activities, like some of the plays or some of the programs, even seminars, trips, it shows that the grassroots interreligious dialogue in Bosnia is present, and that the dialogue between the people or the religious tolerance between different religious groups in Bosnia actually exists. And this is something that shows the possibility for the future development of the plural society, truly plural society. We could say multi-ethnic, multi-religious society. Today in Bosnia, according to the state record, 46 religious churches, religious communities, or religious organizations registered in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this is something that shows all this religious plurality that we have currently and that exists in Bosnia. So sometimes there is a politicization of the religion in the daily purposes and the issues, but this is some other different, let's say, topic of the use and misuse of the religion in a daily political purposes. This is the brief, let's say, ideas that I wanted to share with you related to this, and hopefully we can have some questions and we can discuss it even more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this interreligious idea in the country. And we have 2 minutes left from your talk. So I would like to ask you to introduce, your area and your institute and studies, please.
I graduated at the Faculty of Islamic Studies. Then I switched to political sciences at the MA, and the PhD was combination between the primary and the secondary level. It was the religiosity among the Bosniaks or Bosnian Muslims, and the influence of religiosity on voting behavior and ideological orientations among the Bosniaks. And when it comes to the current position that I have, it is the coordinator for research education at Institute for Bosniak Studies. We have publications that we are working on. Among the most, let's say, prominent of them is the journal Bosnian Studies. It is the journal for the development of Bosnian thought and culture. Actually, it published the articles in English. Hopefully, you can all contribute to this publication as well. It just has to deal something with the Bosnia. So it can be UIA relations or these kind of things. And so I have no classes, alhamdulillah. That's good, especially during this period of Corona. So this is something that is good. So just doing research projects. Couple of them are actually with Islamic community in Bosnia. Last year, we had a project related to the gambling issue in Bosnia among the Bosniaks or Bosnian Muslims, the prevalence of the gambling, and it is devastating. So this is something that we really need to more, not just the theological or religious issues to focus on, but rather to go into the real everyday life and to see what are the challenges that our citizens have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We will move to next speaker, Edward Saka from Academy of Albanian Studies, Albania. He will be speaking on the subject Historical Roots of Tolerance and Religious Coexistence in Albania. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening from Albania. Firstly, I would like to ask your understanding because I just came out from a 3-week hard battle with COVID, and finally I'm COVID-free, hopefully. Actually, I'm a little bit tired and weak, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity to be here with some old friends and colleagues of me. When we talk about interreligious coexistence, I would say that Albania is a properly case. Just to give some facts, I would like to say that Albanian states officially recognizes 5 religious communities, such as Muslim, Sunnis, Catholic, Roman Catholic, Orthodox Christian, the Bektashi community, the Protestants, and lastly, the Jewish community. Also, in Albania, we have circa 230 different religious organizations that operate in Albania. As a colleague from Sarajevo said before, we don't have just Komšija communication. We have mixed families. We don't have different neighborhoods, but the people in big urban centers live together. We don't have such separations. It's interesting that the 19th century foreign travelers have emphasized that Albanians aren't so much committed to the religion. They are non-religious peoples. But I think that there are some important historical periods and some cultural elements that makes the Albanians be unique in their mode of living life and religion. This is the case that the Albanian states, and not just the Albanian states, the Europeans see Albania as a good example of religious coexistence. Also, I must emphasize that Albanians, not just Albania, but Albanians are the only European nation that has a majority of Muslim community. This also gives to the Muslim element a positive view, let's say. To deep into the roots of this religious coexistence, I must note some, there are a lot of elements, but I just want to emphasize that the historical one and mostly the cultural one. The people that know Albania spoke about Besa is a word of honor. Albanians, especially family ties, keep the difference or the religious differences away from creating separations between the people, especially in the 19th century, in the nationalist era, let's say. Also, in 20th century, I must say that in 1967, Albania became the first officially the first atheist state in the world. So in a nation that suffered so much from politics, from regimes, from different historical events, there were firstly the family ties, the customs, the cultural structure of the nation that kept the people be stronger in their relations, do not to concentrate too much in their differences, but the things that made them united them. This is the main religious coexistence, and to promote the existence within the community, but in reality we don't have in Albania, for example, a chair of history of religions or on university. What I am trying to say is that there are the cultural structures, there are the family ties, there is this society that keeps the religious coexistence live in the Albanian society, just not in Albania, but promoting this value as an example for the other societies. This is just I wanted to emphasize. Thank you.
Do you speak 1 minute briefly on your institute and your career?
Yeah. I was born in Albania, and my graduate and postgraduate studies I've finished in University of Uludağ in Turkey in the field of history of religions. Then since 2014, I work in the National Institute of History here in Tirana. My work is focused in the Ottoman period of Albania, but as I told before, I am focused also in the promotion of and the researching of the religious coexistence and interfaith dialogue in our society.
Thank you. Thank you so much, especially the time that matters. Here we have the fourth speaker, Mr. Yaton Mahmudi from GEP Institute, Kosovo. He will be speaking on the subject, Peace Building and Interfaith Harmony in Kosovo, the contribution of Muslim communities. Please, Mr. Mahmudi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to everybody. Very happy to be with you tonight. My topic is about interfaith harmony in Kosovo and peace building, because this is a topic that I've been following for many years. And I would like to just follow from where Edward left, that Albanians in general are very much famous for enriching this culture of interfaith harmony. And we have been coexisting, we have seen coexistence of many religious groups in Kosovo for many, many years. But there was some point at history where that interfaith harmony was disrupted, and that was the war between Kosovo and Serbia 20 years ago, when unfortunately politics and religion got mixed up a little bit, and it made the whole situation a bit worse. Unfortunately, religious sites and monuments and historical buildings belonging to different religious communities were not spared during the war, and that shows that the parties in conflict did not spare the religious sites as well. So according to the International Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, for example, of around 500 mosques that were in use before the war, half of them were either completely destroyed or partially destroyed. And that includes very old mosques built in the Ottoman times from the 15th century, and many very valuable institutions as well. On the other hand, many Orthodox churches were destroyed after the war as an act of retaliation. So this shows that there was a pretty much a big need for the religious groups to come together and to promote peace and harmony among the different communities. And on this occasion, the international community played a very an active role in bringing religious groups together in order to reconcile and to promote interfaith harmony. Even during the war, religious leaders came together, and they showed to the people that we are in this together. We have to look forward, not backward. So the involvement of the international community is a factor that is pretty much interesting in Kosovo, because according to the documents and the Ahtisaari proposal, which was the document that led to the constitution of Kosovo and to the independence of Kosovo, the Kosovo state should be a secular state, a neutral state in the matters of religions and religious beliefs. And in a way, it was always promoted that secularism is going to be pretty much strong in Kosovo, and religious communities have to, in a way, to deal with their own issues, but the state is going to be about everything. So in this regard, on the success of promoting interfaith harmony and coexistence in Kosovo, I would like to say that religious communities played a major role, especially the Islamic community of Kosovo, which represents the largest community here in Kosovo, because according to the latest census, over 90% of people belong to Islam or declare themselves as Muslims. So this gives the Islamic community a huge responsibility in promoting tolerance and interfaith harmony with other religious groups. So in a way, that the first part of my topic is about the success of promoting interfaith harmony in Kosovo. The second part, which is to my mind very important, is the challenges that are emerging in Kosovo that are in a way hindering this interfaith harmony. And among the main challenges I have identified, first of all, the state responsibility to, in a way, to come to the needs of the religious communities. Why I'm saying this? Because in 20 years, we have seen the government being a bit reluctant to respond to the needs of religious communities in Kosovo. There is, of course, a law on freedom of religion, but that law is very vague and very broad, and religious communities, especially the Islamic community, have been complaining all the time that this law does not even respond to the basic needs of the religious communities in Kosovo, such as acquiring a legal status of a religious community. So that is one challenge that we have to deal before it worsens the situation. The second challenge is the emergence of individuals from different groups of religious communities with a more extremistic, in a way, approach to the matters of coexistence and to the interfaith harmony as well. So this gives the religious communities themselves a huge responsibility to, in a way, be careful on how how the imams and priests, for example, are using the public space to sometimes to incite hatred towards one another. We have had many cases from but from all religious communities where individuals, not the communities per se, but individuals belonging to those communities have used a very not the proper language, which has led to many comments and has disrupted this interfaith harmony. The third challenge that I see is the emergence of faith-based and political parties of a religious background. Of course, they are pursuing their own political agenda, but that has to be in line with the interfaith, with the promotion of interfaith harmony in overall in the country. The fourth challenge I see is the responsibility of the education system in Kosovo. Unfortunately, Kosovo, as I said, is based on a very secular curriculum, and students and kids in Kosovo have no way to learn about religions because religious education is prohibited, or at least it's not included in the public schools. So that leaves kids and pupils to be to learn about religions from different sources, but not from the schools. So I believe it should be religious education a subject that kids should be offered to school kids in order for them to better learn about religion and different religions that coexist in Kosovo. And the last challenge that I'm going to address in my paper is about the media and the hate speech that we often see in Kosovo. The media pluralism has given the voice to many people who unfortunately misuse the public space, and sometimes their message is counterproductive and really hurts people's feelings overall. So interfaith harmony and peace building in Kosovo, just to conclude, has been the focus for many political, international and local actors to promote it given the tragic events of the war. But on the other hand, we should not take the peace and coexistence for granted. There are emerging challenges, and somebody has to look on those before they disrupt the harmony among the different communities that coexist in Kosovo. So this is a little bit about my
thank you, Hamadi, especially giving specific point on the area of research. And we will move to next speaker, Dr. Anja Zalta. She is from the University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. She will be speaking on the subject Christian-Muslim religious tolerance and coexistence in Slovenia. Please.
Yes, good evening. Hello, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm really honored to be with you, so distinguished hosts and my dear colleagues. My name is Anja Zalta. Just a brief introduction. I study sociology, ethnology, and cultural anthropology. I hold a PhD in sociology. I'm also associate professor for sociology of religion at Sociology Department, Faculty of Arts, University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. I am teaching courses on sociology of religion, comparative religion, religion and modern society, and also gender and religion, which is one of my research topics also on different projects that I have at the moment about religious tradition, religious identities. I need to say that my first encounter with the question of Islamic traditions was when I was living in Konya, in Turkey, between 2003 and 2006. I was periodically living in Konya and do some research on secularism and the question of religion in Turkish society. And I came to know Sufism of Mevlevis in Konya. So I was quite fascinated with this tradition. And slowly, I started to explore more about Islamic philosophy, Islamic art, Islamic culture in general, and of course, Islamic theology. But as a sociologist, of course, I'm involved in social questions, also regarding the question of religious minorities in Slovenia. And my research at the moment is focusing on the question of religious coexistence and good practices of this coexistence in Europe, especially in Slovenia. Among other things, my attention is paid to the relationship between the state and the religious community, with special emphasis on the relationship with Islamic communities in Slovenia. So namely, the Slovenian Constitution determines secularism by separating the state from religious communities and guaranteeing equal rights to all religious communities. At the moment, we have 59 registered religious communities in Slovenia, but the Islamic community in Slovenia is the second largest religious community, just behind the Roman Catholic Church. So the dynamic between, I would say, these so-called giants regarding the question of other religious communities, of course, is essential, to understand the dynamic between different religious communities, but also between broader public. So in order to understand also the position of Islam in Slovenia and to understand how Slovenian public is perceiving Islam in general, not just the Islamic community as such, but Islam in general, it is important to understand the historical dimension of the contact of Slovenia with Islam. And unfortunately, the memory of this first contact is not really positive. So the problem is that the first contact with Islam took place in the 15th century, in the time of Turkish invasions, Turkish incursions, and through the folk poetry, through the prose, the Slovene collective memory still preserves this recollection of these events. So the problem is that, of course, because of, I will say, the religious ignorance in a sense, or not to understand, not to know a lot or enough about Islamic tradition, about Islamic religion and so on, there are still a lot of stereotypes regarding the question of Islam. Of course, it's fueled by also the media, of course, also by the different stereotypical presentations of Islam in, let's say, as a kind of a European other to some extent, also due to the political situations. So, of course, what is important to see and to do as a part of the research is to first explain how these different presentations of understanding Muslims, through the historical dimension of contact of Slovenia with Islam were presented through different phases. So to understand that there were different situations, to also to understand that next phase is not just the Turkish incursions, but also the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and then the time of Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, and then the time of Independent Republic of Slovenia. All these phases are important, to understand this contact of Slovenia with Islam, and we can divide also different understanding, also during these phases about Islam. So I need to say that there has been very little written about Muslims in Slovenia. Very few scientific papers on this topic have been available and to introduce in a reliable manner on the subject of history. So this is one thing that it is important to do on this question, and then also to regard the legal situation of Muslims in Slovenia. As already said, the Islamic community of Slovenia is the second biggest. It has been active since 1967, when in Ljubljana the first local community was established, and agreement on the legal status of the Islamic community and the Republic of Slovenia was signed in July 2007 by a Grand Mufti and President of Meshihat of Islamic community, Dr. Nejat Grabus, and on the other side with the Republic of Slovenia, with the chairman of the committee of the government of the Republic of Slovenia. So the government of the Republic of Slovenia and the Islamic community have the agreement on freedom of operation of the Islamic community, then legal personality of the Islamic community, freedom of organization and conduct of religious and educational activity, and jurisdiction, freedom of forming structures of the Islamic community and appointing persons in charge of them, freedom of establishing and maintaining contacts, freedom of access to public media and establishment of own media, freedom of creating associations, freedom of establishing educational institutions, preserving historical and cultural heritage, general rights and religious activities in hospital, nursing homes, the armed forces, the police and special institutions, education of Islamic charity organization with other charity organizations. So actually what I would like to look in more depth is how all these agreements are put into the practice. And also I'm interested to see those good practices that in recent years have helped to learn about, let's say, Islam in general and strengthen the tolerance and coexistence and social cohesion among Slovenian citizens. So in this way, I would like to see how much this religious illiteracy has been shifted, beyond the stereotypical ideas about Islam that are still circulated in Slovene public, and what has Islamic community and Islamic communities, because we have now 2 registered Islamic communities in Slovenia, done to good practices in recent years that help to learn about this, to help to learn strengthen the tolerance and coexistence. So this will be my task. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really thank all the panelists, especially giving a illustrative idea on the subject. It's great to have unique insight on the Southeastern Europe, especially on interfaith, interreligious matters, and indigenized and integrated Islam. I leave this to Dr. Masood Idris, and he will be dealing this session for Q&A. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Abbas, and thank you everybody for your presentations. Now there are a number of bulky questions. It's not a one-line question, so I have been trying to manage the questions by sending privately to the speakers in order for them to prepare themselves and to save the time. The question starts with Dr. Ali Hussein from Greece. You mentioned about new Muslim immigrants in Greece and their difficulties of integration. Where are these immigrants from and why there are such difficulties? Any approach or policy have proved to be effective in dealing with them?
Yes. Thank you very much, Professor Idris. There's a quite powerful Pakistani community in Athens, for example. I mean, when you tackle identities of the new immigrants, the new Muslim immigrants, mainly they come from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Albania, Egypt, Bangladesh, and MENA region. In my talk, I roughly mentioned these new and old Muslims in Greece. This new group of Muslims, they have some challenges that they face while integrating with the Greek society. First of all, they don't have any minority statushood, which means that their rights, they are protected only by the Greek law and those texts that Greece signed and ratified, dealing with rights of minorities or rights of immigrants. But the old Muslims, when you talk about especially the Muslim Turks in Western Thrace, their rights, they are also protected by international treaties like the 1923 Peace Treaty of Lausanne. They face in their everyday lives, many of them, they do face with discrimination based on their ethnic identity, ethnic background, or their faith, or both of them. Because nobody knows why these people that have been attacked. I mean, are they attacked due to their ethnicity or religion or both? The usage of the Islamic symbols is not so easy in a context where Islam is in a minority position. like using, the veil, use of veil. Some Muslim women, they refrain from using the veil because of that they can get targeted, they can lose their jobs. Radical nationalism and even racism, it promotes the feeling of their ghettoization and discrimination. They may be physically targeted on the road, especially by those groups who do not want to see Muslims on Greek lands. There are still many people in Greece that they are not comfortable with the presence of Muslims in Greece, and they are houses of prayers. They can also be targeted. Which really makes them, from time to time, feel uncomfortable based on their faith. What Greece has been doing so as to tackle these kind of challenges and integrate Muslims, especially the relatively newer ones, to the Greek majority society composed of Orthodox Christians. For example, there was a problem with their registration as Greek citizens, even if they have been living there like for 1 decade or 2 decades. Many of them, they still face with getting Greek citizenship. Greece has solved partly this problem, but still there's something missing that Greece needs to tackle. Provide provision of places for collective prayers, like for the Eid prayers, as some of us is familiar with the lack of mosque. There used to be a lack of mosque in Athens. Athens used to be the only European capital city without an official house of prayer. But last year, this problem was solved. And in case more Muslims need to pray altogether, because as we know, the mosque is quite smallish. It's like for 300 Muslims in a city where hundreds and thousands they do live. Then for the Eid prayers, for example, some stadiums, they are given as a space for Muslims to pray for the Eid prayers. Their problem about the lack of a cemetery is still ongoing. That there is no Muslim cemetery, for example, in Athens, not in Thessaloniki, only in Western Thrace, Kos and Dodecanese Islands. Greece has already registered. There is only one. There is a single official mosque, but there are tens of unofficial, I will say, unregistered houses of makeshift houses of prayers belonging to different Islamic communities, especially in the urban centers of Athens and Thessaloniki. And there are some programs that Greece has already put in use and supported by NGOs. These are especially for Greek public service members and Greek journalists, and inclusion some more info in the school textbooks, so that the Greek majority can know much more about the essences of Islam and sensitivities of Muslims. There are some steps that has already been taken by Greece that are very important, but much more needs to be taken in the coming future so as to integrate Muslims in full terms to the Greek majority Orthodox Christian society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. Now there is a question to Dr. Muhammad Ali. Again, it's a little bit bulky. If you can squeeze the answer. What is the most important features of traditional Islamic education model in the Balkans? Did they develop their own indigenous education materials or schools of thoughts in terms of theology and jurisprudence? How is this model successful in shield the foreign ideology or influences from affecting Balkan Muslim communities? Please.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. So I would like to emphasize that one of the main features of Islamic education in Southeast Europe is that there was a continuation in the process of providing Islamic education and there was no any interruption in the process of offering indigenous Islamic education, like in the example in Yugoslavia, and the case of Usrev-Bek Madrasa in Sarajevo. So the process of providing and offering Islamic education, it was not interrupted, between two world wars and during the Yugoslavian crisis in 1990s. Although there were some exceptions, like in Bulgaria and Albania, so I'm talking for the 20th century, because the ideology of communism was harshly implemented in those both countries. And on the other hand, I would like to emphasize that Islamic education has been developed by establishing colleges and universities in Southeast European countries, like Faculty of Islamic Sciences in Skopje, North Macedonia, Faculty of Islamic Studies in Pristina, Kosovo in 1990s, Faculty of Islamic Sciences in Sarajevo, and also there were new policies of introducing, Islamic courses in public schools beginning by 21st century. And the materials related to Islamic education, they have been prepared. I would like to emphasize here the issue of the materials, that they were prepared by Bosnian and Albanian scholars. In Bosnian case, by Bosnian scholars, Islamic scholars, and in Albanian case, when I say Albanian, I mean North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Albania itself as well. So they have been prepared, generally talking, by scholars from those countries. And generally talking, Islamic communities were successful Islamic religious communities, like in Bosnia, in North Macedonia, Albania, Kosovo, and other religious communities were successful in minimizing the negative effects of foreign ideologies by offering indigenous Islamic education through different Islamic educational institutions, as we mentioned before, like madrasas, maktabs, and faculties and Islamic universities, and by integrating those people affected by different ideologies into the system of traditional Islamic communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Now there is the third question to Dr. Mary. The question is, in your research, have you identified any art or architectural patterns which reflect unique Islamic form of Balkans? If so, what are they and their significance, if any?
Yes, of course. I mean, I am at the beginning now of the research. However, there are some, unique forms, unique Islamic forms on the architecture. For example, the mosques, the public baths, bridges, etc. Of course, they all have been, the ones built in the Ottoman times have already had their distinctive way of building and structure, which has, of course, changed, or it varies in accordance to the local understanding. For example, the slender minarets are more popular for Albania, Kosovo, and Montenegro. Symbolic forms, for example, established in the past, maybe used also as an impetus for the creativity. They have to be also examined and applied in a subtle way to acquire a clear understanding of the contemporary meaning they have. We have many examples also of that, many mosques. For example, the Sharana Mosque in Tetovo, the Stone Bridge, and the Mihrab in Skopje, Visegrad.
Those are very
it requires a lot of research.
I have been having in the past 25 years, I am from Skopje, from the capital of North Macedonia. I have been crossing from the stone bridge almost every day because my house is nearby. And I have been seeing this mihrab in the middle of the bridge. And I have been always questioning myself, what this mihrab is doing here, you know. And then it has attracted me, and I turned this into a project, you know, now. Kind of like those Islam, when Islam came to the Balkans, did not impose a religion to the local people. What happened that there were symbols that, you know, let's say traders, when they were passing from Via Egnatia or all this continuation of Silk Road to the Balkans, they needed to pray. So there was no compass for them. And this mihrabs on the top of the bridges were a kind of indicative sign on the Qibla for their daily prayers. So now I am making a kind of project out of this, you know, but I am going slowly because we need really good funds and things. I brought a group of people from Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Emirates, and Kuwait in 2014. They did a Balkan trip. They started from Skopje and ended up in Sarajevo. It took them 24 days, educational trip, where they were studying Islamic architecture, indigenous Islamic architecture belonging to the Balkans. And they were, every third day, there were lectures given, you know. I mean, how the Mostar city is different from Sarajevo, how Travnik, let's say, is different from Sarajevo, you know, this distinguished aspects of it. Sorry, I needed to add certain points from my side. There is another question to Dr. Leila Ramic-Mesihovic. What is the most important lesson for Muslim communities learned from the experience of coexistence in historical Yugoslavia, if any?
Well, night is still young. And as the previous colleague said, we are just starting the research. But what can be concluded now and maybe verified later in the paper, lessons learned would be reflected in what's going on in these Islamic communities within and in interaction with others. So when it comes to lessons learned within, it is very well proven that unity is important. And even in case of administrative fractionism and divisions of Islamic communities, such as in Serbia, unity of and the spirit of Muslim communities should be always positive and constructive, despite these administrative divisions. This is one thing. The other thing is, and this is something that we in Bosnia know a lot about, importance of maintenance of collective and refreshment of collective remembrance of good interactions between different religious communities. One of the examples that just came across my mind and that I like a lot, and does not originate from Yugoslavia, but originates since 200 years ago. But there is a spirit of it within which many things happened later on as well. We have the tradition of Sarajevo Purim. And 3 years ago, we had 200 years since the Sarajevo Purim, co-organized by the Islamic community and the Jewish community here in Bosnia. And within this spirit, you have the stories about Muslims keeping the Haggadah throughout the Second World War. You have Muslims hiding Jews in Sarajevo throughout the Second World War, and there are many shining examples of coexistence. Some of them a little bit different, have a little bit different shadow nowadays after the events in the 90s. But this remembrance and maintenance of this collective memory and firming up this collective memory of how kind communities of different religious backgrounds were living together, not coexisting. Coexisting means a fence. We live together. And this is challenged daily here in Bosnia due to some other appetites that haven't been fed during the war and even during the implementation of the Dayton Peace Accord. But this is something that maybe has to be cherished a bit more, with more care, with more visibility, and with more promotion of values of coexistence and living together. When it comes to this is also when it comes to the mutual interaction with different communities. When it comes to MO, when it comes to way of functioning, we've learned here in the Balkans that it helps when a religious community, any, is being a part of a solution. Because over the past 30 years, they've been becoming increasingly important in our countries. And we've also learned that in sensitive situation, despite the specific weight that is very often heavy that Islamic communities and other religious communities have in our countries, flexibility, non-irritant, and constructive behavior is always a significant contribution to peace, stability, and social cohesion. And also, what my point is that I'm still collecting evidence for, but it is visible and does have concrete manifestation. Elitism. Elitism is something that should not be prominent in religious communities, especially in religious communities that aspire to be the religious communities running certain processes or being a part of significant processes within a society. Religious communities are there because of people, because of their believers, and should be as close to them as possible. And this has to be visible and understandable as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leila. You mentioned coexistence and you said that, living togetherness. There is a very nice concept in Islamic tradition that has been practiced in the past, which we should actually really focus on this kind of, the concept of ta'ayush. Ta'ayush in Arabic or Quranic expression is living together, not coexisting, living together. So perhaps we can learn from this kind of contextual and conceptual.
That would be the word. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, last but not least, we have a question to Dr. Anya. The collective memory of old encounter with Turkish incursion to the region seems very negative on the new Muslim communities and creating the stereotype against Islam. Is it a cross-Balkan region thing or just in Slovenia? Will Slovenia model to counter these stereotypes, if successful, be applied to other Southeast European countries?
Yes, this is a good question. Well, the problem is, as I said, that this stereotype about these Turkish incursions is somehow perpetuated with through the school system as well. In the school system, of course, you have very famous poets and writers who wrote about this historical tradition. And then children, of course, they read these stories. They read it's a part of the curriculum in a way, So the problem, of course, is to somehow to put in the context, Also in the school system, we need to somehow make a revisions of different courses on from, let's say, history, of course, through question of literature, what kind of literature is prescribed to be read at schools, and also to put it in the context. The problem is that it's not contextualized. So this is something that needs to be done. So the revision is important, and also to put in a context. So regarding the question how much this can be, let's say, a good practice for other regions, yes, of course. If there is a good look in the curriculum and in the textbooks, it should be contextualized. That's all I can say. Without this, it's a problem. It will go on, and it will be. It will fuel another stereotypes. So that's something that needs to be done. I think curriculums at schools are the most important thing. That has to be renewed to some point, or to put in a context. That's what I can say.
Thank you, Dr. Anya. Before I conclude this the webinar, I would like to ask His Eminence Sheikh Buyar Sbahil if he has any last statement to our audience here and at large that we are having in Facebook and YouTube. Please, Your Eminence. Microphone. Your Eminence Sheikh Buyar Sbahil.
بالعربي شوي يعني آخر كلمة
باللغة العربية. In Arabic, that's what you mean.
أنا أولاً قبل كل شيء.
So I'll be speaking in Arabic. So first and foremost, I wish you all the best, and I wish all Muslims all over the world.
أن تكون هذا رمضان الكريم مباركاً لكلنا.
So I wish all Muslims to have a blessed Ramadan. And also I would like to thank you very much for organizing such a conference where we discussed the circumstances within Al-Balkan region and where Muslims exist. We in Albania, Islam started in the 14th century from the Arab traders and continued within Ottomani context. So many people entered Islam because of that. And we here, we tried to focus on the religious values for Islam and also for human values, as all people need to stick to these values. We pray that to Allah that we will have support from Allah to do this. I would like to thank the World Muslim Communities Council for their attempts to organize conferences and webinars in order to educate people about coexistence and living together within these areas. We are now living under the umbrella of globalization. We Muslims and non-Muslims, Christians, all people, we are living with interfaith and full coexistence. We have many common areas. It's not differences, but many common areas. As Allah said in His verses in the Holy Quran, "O people, we created you male and females, and we made you tribes to be introduced to each other. The best people are the best to all the others." So at-taqwa here and believing in Allah. So at the end, I would like to thank you very much and peace be upon you. Thank you very much.
Event. I will conclude here by saying 1 minute something here that I have been working extensively since 1996 and I published an article about assimilation and conversion to Islam of the non-Muslims during the Ottoman period. And I realized something that, there was nothing called assimilation. It was not like French occupation of Northwest Africa, I mean, today, the whole Southeast European region, they speak their own languages, you know. They speak their own dialects. Even Turks who are living in the region, they speak each, let's say, 20, 40 kilometers. The difference is, let's say, from Skopje to Teto, they have their slangs, their accents, their terminologies. So in Serbian language, you have more than 1,000 words used in their daily affairs, be it Turkish words or Arabic words. You know? So I named this with a coinage. I said this is not assimilation. On the contrary, it is acculturation. Acculturation, a kind of enrichment of the Balkan cultures with Islam. Islam brought this enrichment to the region. Thank you to all, and I would like to thank the organizers of this event, the World Muslim Community Center. I hope we meet again next time. Take care of yourself. Sorry, it took 11 minutes extra to the time that we're supposed to finish the session. Take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Stay COVID-19 free.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barakallah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye Leyla.
Teşekkür ediyorum.
Teşekkürler.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmet.
Bye bye.